This is a bit of a different one from me today. It's maybe a little bit darker, but it's a topic that's very close to my heart and something that I feel needed to be discussed. And that is the ugly truth about getting diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. And this was prompted by everything that's going on in the media at the moment. At the time of recording this, I mean, things may have changed and hopefully progressed if you are watching this in the future. But at the time of recording this, in the UK, we have a crisis. We have an epidemic on our hands, which is that the wait lists for ADHD, if you are not going private, which private is extortionate, it's ridiculous. It's over £1,000 in most places now. You could be waiting up to 7 years in some regions of the UK. There is discourse in the government of potentially getting people off wait lists if they don't think that they're serious enough, which means that there are going to be so many people struggling to get diagnoses. And I think that's a problem, and that's what I want to discuss today. Because what I want you to take from this video is understanding why getting a diagnosis is important, what the actual reality is of getting a diagnosis, but also for some of you guys who are on the road to actually show the reality of it. Because it isn't this sunshine rainbows thing of like you get diagnosed and everything's great. And I don't want this to be depressing. I don't want this to be like doom and gloom, but I want it to be raw and real, because sometimes people avoid talking about the hard stuff because it's not sexy. You know, the fun sunshine rainbow stuff sells. But I always like to just be real, because I wish people had been like this and I wish I'd known this when I was going through it. So let's get stuck in. So the first point I want to make is that the road to diagnosis is long and often potentially expensive. At the moment, like I was saying at the start of this video, wait lists in the UK can be up to 7 years. Most places you are looking 3 to 4 years, and potentially, you know, even if you go down pathways like Right to Choose, you could still be waiting a long time. Now, if you compare this to most other things in the UK, if you went to your GP and said, I've got this mental problem, maybe it's depression, maybe it's anxiety that you think you have, maybe it's that you have some sort of physical health. Yes, waitlists can be long, and especially in things like women's health, but usually you're going to get something within the year. This could be multiple years. And why this is so problematic, if you are a late diagnosed or you suspect you have ADHD, and you've spent your whole life struggling with mental health, feeling different, feeling just weird in ways that you cannot even put into words, to then research it and think, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing. This would explain everything to me and give me so much love, compassion, understanding. But to see that so out of reach, that in itself can be hard. So you've had this hardship, and then this thing is so out of reach, that's really hard. And that's really hard for people to deal with. Because we should be able to think we have a problem and be able to go and get a solution, the same way that if you go to the GP and you're struggling with your menstrual cycle or you've got a headache, you can get support quite quickly. It should be the same, but it's not. And you have to wait so long for something that confirms something that you've known and you deserve to know. It's really hard. It's really hard. And thankfully for me, when I was going through the process a few years ago, private diagnosis was very accessible. You know, I still appreciate that paying what I did was a privileged position to be in, paying, I think it was around £500, but it was accessible. We are now looking at £1,000 plus, which most people in this current economic climate just do not just have lying around, right? You know, more than holidays, more than your Christmas presents, more than your household bills. It's crazy. It's extortionate. So that is the first thing. Like, be prepared, guys, to be either waiting a long time or paying a lot of money. There's going to be a cost somewhere, and the reality is it's one of the two. The next thing is, if when you've got to this place, so maybe you're further ahead, maybe you've had your diagnosis, or you're going to get diagnosed, you know, you're on a wait list, you've got an appointment, right? Normally what happens is when you get diagnosed with something, you know, if you get told you've got PCOS, you've got this, you've got that, you know, in some situations it's not, but generally you will get medication, you will get some guidelines of what you can do to support yourself. It's a very strange phenomenon of there's such a build up to diagnosis, but then it's like you just get pushed off a cliff. Good luck. That's how it feels, right? Okay, you've got ADHD, good luck. Good outlook there in the world, right? And you don't understand it, right? You're not the expert. Even if you've done a typical ADHD thing of going down a rabbit hole of researching it, you're still very new to understanding what it is. And I remember that feeling of, I've just been left. And especially if you don't take a medicated route, because I explicitly said I do not want to take medication. It's one, financially inaccessible because I'd gone private. Because that's another thing to consider, guys, is if you go private, it doesn't just stop at the diagnosis. If you do want to look for medication, you will be paying privately for at least a year, which I think my quote was around £300 a month, which again is a lot of money, multiple thousands over the year, which is absolute madness. So what it felt like to me was, okay, you've got ADHD, we'll send a letter to your GP, any questions? And I'm like, I've got all the questions. But the support just ended there. And I felt so alone. And of course, the beautiful thing about the neurodivergent community is we are all out here for each other. We all help each other. So people will help you. You know, there are amazing people out there with great content, people in your family, people in your world who will help you out. Like, I've got no doubts about that. But it's a very strange and frustrating feeling to feel like the healthcare system has just thrown you off a cliff. So be prepared for that sense of almost feeling abandoned, frustrated by it. There's a big thing with ADHD of justice sensitivity, and that's where it kicks in. It's like, well, no, you should be giving me some more, but you're not going to get anything. So this is where, in my opinion, if you are now on the road to getting diagnosed, have a support community plan in place. If you've got friends, family that maybe been diagnosed, be ready to reach out to them. Maybe already start looking at like content creators, communities, places where you can be a part of it, so that again, you've got people to reach out to, because I had a few people, but no one really that I could speak to. And had I just had someone that could have explained things to me and had a phone call with, it would have really, really helped me out. The next part is the judgment. Now, especially with what's going on at the moment with this whole everyone's got ADHD, why is everyone getting diagnosed? And what we actually know the truth is that more people should have been diagnosed over the years for the last, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But they weren't, because they weren't picked up by the criteria. People weren't talking about it. Now people are talking about it. Now the criteria has shifted. All these people that had ADHD are now just asking for the answer. But what that can look like on the surface is it's a trend, it's a hype, it's a phenomenon, and that's not the truth in any way, shape or form. Not only do you have this thing, there's almost this sense of, I don't want to tell anyone. I feel almost ashamed. I feel like I've done something wrong, and that's how I felt. I was really anxious. Like, I remember not even telling my parents found out because I made a post on social media. I felt like I'd done something wrong. It felt almost weird that I had it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, you're the same person. There's just a word for who you are. But it's going to come with this feeling of judgment. It's going to come with this potential judgment, obviously, depending on the people in your world. This feeling that maybe people are looking at you different, that people are reacting to you differently. And usually it's more internal than external. But again, be prepared for that, because I wasn't prepared. I thought, okay, great. I was not prepared to feel like I was judging myself more, that everyone around me was judging me, that everyone was seeing me differently, because I now have this disability that I always had, but now people are aware of it. And that was a very, very, very strange feeling. And telling people I had it, I almost felt like I was telling people that I'd stolen something from a baby. It felt like I'd done something wrong. And that lasted for a good amount of time. The fourth thing is the re-grief, I call it. So it's a relief and grief. So first comes with this sense of relief, and you will get these flashbacks and emotions just going, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. I'm not broken, and it's beautiful. It is the most self-love, self-compassion that you have. But with that will also come a lot of grief, because if, like me, ADHD will have impacted your life for a long time. And maybe had you known, you could have done things differently. So maybe it's impacted your mental health, relationships, friendships, eating disorders, struggles with work, struggles with connection in the world, like finding things hard and not knowing why, and judging yourself and being really hard on yourself. And you will look back and just go, oh my God, things could have been so different. You know, I remember looking back, I remember just doing this scan of my entire life and just looking at that like 5-year-old girl who just felt so alone in the world. And I just want to hug her and go, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you, Lucy. You've got ADHD, and this is why you feel so different. You know, going back to me struggling with binge eating and not knowing why, and why was I so obsessed with food, and being able to go, Lucy, you're not obsessed with food, you don't have enough dopamine. We need to give you more dopamine. All of those battles that I had, and I was able to reframe it and go, well, this has made me the woman I am today. I'm now doing the work I am today because of it. But gosh, there is so much grief. There are so many memories that I lost out on or are negatively tainted that maybe, had I known, could be different. And you will have a long period of that. And it's really hard, grieving an old self, grieving a life you could have had. Really hard, but you will go through that. I think the final thing to cover is that life doesn't just suddenly get easier, right? I had it in my head that when I get diagnosed, if I do get diagnosed, it's gonna be sunshine, rainbows, I understand myself, everything's great in the world. It usually comes with a lot of hardship before it gets better. I do think getting diagnosed is amazing. And I honestly will keep saying that it's changed my life. It's saved my life in some ways. But there's so much to unpack. There's almost this identity crisis, because now so many things about yourself make sense. And then you're starting to unravel, well, where was I masking? Was I masking? What's masking? What's me? If I now start behaving as my authentic self, am I behaving differently? but am I doing that because I've got ADHD, or was that always me? And you have this almost learning yourself period, and it's really, really, really confusing. Really confusing. You know, things for myself like I was a very, 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 very organized person, which was masking, like I overcompensated. So then I was like, right, well, I need to put as much pressure on myself. But if I don't put enough pressure on myself, will I forget things? And if I forget things, is then people think I'm making an excuse for my ADHD. And you have all this going on, which can take a long time to come to terms with. It's realizing how much you were masking, realizing how much you were suppressing yourself. And then, you know, you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and feeling like you're coming out of your shell, which is, you know, something that you should do when you're a child. And it's so very strange. It's unlearning shame. It's unlearning patterns. It's a really confusing time. And it takes time. It takes time to figure it yourself out and find out who you are, which sounds really deep and something that we should have figured out as an adult. And it can come around with a lot of change, maybe realizing, actually, I don't want to be friends with these people. Actually, the way I'm working doesn't serve me. Actually, that's not what I want for my life. You know, we've seen people, and I've heard stories of people realizing they don't want to be with the person they're with, not wanting to be the career they're with, not wanting to live in the country they are, not doing the thing. It's a really powerful time. With all the hardship comes something beautiful, because once you've got through this self-discovery, this grief, this messy period of feeling the judgment, and you really do get to find out who you are. And that's when you can live a life that you've always dreamed of. And when I say always dreamed of, I don't necessarily mean you're going to be living on the beach with, you know, safaris and £1 million. But everything can just feel authentic, because you can shape a life in a way that actually finally feels like it's working. You can surround yourself with the right people. You can create a schedule that actually feels good for you. You can remove the constant pressure in your brain and just actually feel like, what does it actually feel like to feel quite zen and chill, as much as we can with ADHD. So I wanted to share this because an ADHD diagnosis is life-changing, and if you are so fortunate to have one, it will change everything. But I wanted to be raw and real, because I wish someone had told me that it does come with all of this ups and downs, because I was not prepared for it. And for those of you who maybe listen to this who are like, well, I want to get to that other side, but I'm at the start. I've got 7 years to wait, or a lot of money to save up. What I want to give you is this, right? Is that if you resonate with symptoms of ADHD or traits of ADHD, there is nothing stopping you right now going, I resonate with ADHD. I identify with this within ADHD. You don't have to self-diagnose fully, but if you identify with the planning and organization, the emotional dysregulation, there is nothing stopping you working on yourself right now. There is nothing stopping you, starting to unmask that side of yourself. There is nothing stopping you putting those strategies in place. Because if you can start working on yourself now and you don't wait for the diagnosis, well, when that comes, you're going to be way further ahead. You're already working on yourself, rather than having to, if you just sit around waiting for that diagnosis to work on yourself, that's years of your life that you could have been developing and learning about yourself better. Now on this, if you are in this position and you're feeling quite lost, not sure where to go, overwhelmed, my DMs are always open. You know, I'm a busy gal, but my DMs are always here to chat about this. And like I was saying, if you just need that safe space and someone to talk to, my DMs are a space for that. So please, Instagram is probably the best place for that. That's where you can easily and most readily find me. But again, I am on TikTok, I'm on Facebook. So please, I've got my email. So please just reach out. You're not alone. All right. Thank you for listening to this. If you've got anything that you want to ask, please leave it in the comments and I'll get back to every single one at some point. I promise you. But have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you on the next episode.